Jamie, good evening. Rockwell, Gelt. Good evening, good evening. Roll on in. Let me know if you can hear my audio, please. And here we go. Sean, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Gelt. Ooh.
Hi.
Okay, comment section, please throw in whether you have an echo coming from Kelt or if you can hear her straight without any issues. Also, we should have music in the background, maybe, eventually. No?
Any echoes?
Are there some tunes on your end?
Nope.
No tunes?
Just me.
What?
Just
I'm going
me
to
and a
listen to my
fan.
own music? That's shitty.
I was listening to Dax Riggs, waiting on this, so.
Yes, music, and you are coming in. No echo. Awesome. I think I figured out the mix minus. To answer your question, I'm running off a Rodecaster Pro.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You know, just little tiny little console that used to be about $8,000 in individual pieces. Hey, let's see. We should have other guests rolling in. Then we can staff the panel, and mods are on board as well. Hey, Brammer. Jamie,
hey, Brammer.
Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. No echo, music, yes. Wow. Turn this into a jukebox, shall we? Yes, we are early. We started a little bit early just to make sure that our tech is working because yours truly has a penchant for breaking things. I'm really good at that.
We call those gremlins in my industry.
Yes. Prof, what did you teach? Communications or psych, depending. Crisis comm and organizational psych. Good question, Gunk. Great name, by the way. Blackbird, you're here. You made it. All right, welcome. Good to see you. Yeah. Watch Bar, give it up for Watch Bar. He is like the rock star mod on the back end. Watch is keeping us running.
Literally, because I would not be able to be in this live if it weren't for Watch Bar. Because of some bullshit.
Indeed.
But we got it figured out, and I am here.
Gotta bounce out and in. Well, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's good.
This is the live night. Let's see, Royal Star and Pam were live earlier. Barrister's always live. And then I think Utterly Exhausted Sam is going live, and somebody else. So like a lot of all of our main talent needs support tonight because it's Friday night, and so
Check, hello. Whoa.
Crazy Mother Runner.
Say it isn't so.
Oh, hi.
Now, how the heck do I invite her in here? Guest plus? No? Oh.
Multi-guest down at the bottom.
Jess, do me a favor. Hit the request join button and we'll get you right in here. There she is. Boom.
Hi.
Hello. Good evening.
Darling.
How are you?
Giddy, now that you're here.
Oh my gosh, stop.
You're amazing.
I'm just going to sit down and leave you guys to it.
Oh, Lord. I just shared your video yesterday. Huh?
Pardon me?
I said, just shared your video yesterday, Zeitgeist.
Oh, thank you so much. I included your screenshots from Ballotopia in today's video.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Got to plug you where we can.
I
And we
appreciate
just had
that.
somebody ask what tonight's topics are. Well, I think the broad range, and to some degree, I want to touch on the Fifth Circuit of Appeals that essentially is handing firearms back to convicted domestic violence offenders. But here in the last couple of weeks, I noticed quite significantly that we are all stuck sort of in the same spiral of evaluating what's going on around us, which is coming at breakneck speed. And it's keeping us captivated. So my thought was, and this was today's video, essentially that we have got to break out from that and focus on what we can actually do rather than being captivated by what they are doing to us. And this is where chess comes in. That's you. Nemo,
Hello,
what's up?
Nemo.
Howdy.
Wait, I hear Nemo. I don't see Nemo.
I'm on my backup.
Oh, there you are. I was like, wait, I hear you, but I don't see you.
How's it
And
going?
Politics and Portraits just messaged me she's not going to make it tonight. She has stuff going on. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Miss her, but that's all right.
Yes, we will miss her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's start with, I suppose, the dangerous question, really, with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturning the entire ban on weapons for domestic violence offenders, which they deemed to be not in the interest of our ancestors. I think that was at least the premise of the argument.
Basically,
So they're going to overturn this.
That's the full weight of it.
Well, yeah.
Somehow.
So the question is, I mean, I am not someone who can educatedly speak to that. I was just really surprised that they would take the risk to give somebody who's already with the type of records out in the open access to something that doesn't have a positive outcome, in my opinion.
Exactly. And the fact of the matter is, when you look at statistics, the times that a woman is most in danger. Oh, look at that pretty face. She had to like discombobulate me. Damn. All right.
In
So
the
the
flesh.
times in the flesh. Sorry. Hey, I am taking this whole like
Nemo, I
women
think we should
propping
step
up.
out.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Nemo, are you already blushing? That
So
is record time on turning you red in the
I
face.
I
Oh my
mean
gosh.
yeah.
Oh, you know I adore
I got
you,
I got to
Nemo.
go to I got to go to a little political event tonight, so that was exciting.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
what was it
Really?
about? Do share, please. What's going on in Virginia?
Oh my God, so much. Well, our General Assembly elections are this year, which I'm one of them. But it's 140, so every single seat, House and Senate, are up for grabs. And then our federal senator, Tim Kaine, I don't know if you're familiar with who he is. He was a governor former for Virginia, but he spoke tonight. So we got to go and see him. And then we had State Senator Monty Mason there. We had a bunch of individuals from the Dems that are running for school board, one of our recent city council elects, and then myself and another delegate we're all there. So it was nice.
That's
So
awesome. Did you?
I actually have a question about that. I saw
Mm-hmm.
something very recently about Virginia. So apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, the entire state of Virginia, due to basically a stalemate when it comes to districting, is about to
Yeah.
be completely redistricted by a third party of some kind that's not nonpartisan or whatever. But it's about to be
No. We were just
completely
redistricted.
okay.
So like my district is brand new. It was formerly 96. Now it's 71. The whole state, but it was not gerrymandered. Let me put it to you that way. It was relatively a wash, and just shifted some of the lines. But we have a pretty solid chance to both maintain and extend our holds in both the House and the Senate. Honestly, my
Nice.
seat went from my particular seat went from an an R10 plus to like a R2 plus, which is
Oh, okay.
that's like very flippable, very
Yeah.
flippable.
Yeah.
Now there's some seats that became a little more competitive on the opposite end. So like I said, it's kind of a wash across the board, but there's enough there's enough that we could shift the tide with the right
Nice.
messaging, which is my goal.
Nice.
Just the
I
post
am.
that I threw out today was more along the lines of refocusing, getting involved, trying to figure out what we have to do to actually turn the ship around, or perhaps at least refocus the course a little bit. And I do believe that some folks are just woefully unaware of what it actually takes to run. And since you are essentially brand new to this, or at least it's your second round, right?
Yeah. The first one's very brief. So this is really
that's
the
all
first
right.
one.
That's
Yeah,
we call
yeah.
that experience, right?
Yeah.
What do you actually have to do to get there? What is there? What type of paperwork is involved? What type of
Yeah.
conviction? What kind of money? What does it actually take?
Oh, okay. So congressional and state are very different when you're talking at federal and state. But so for state, I have to fill out a committee form. That's the first thing you do, because you're basically telling the state that you're willing to form a committee to run for office, and that way you can set up your Act Blue, you can get your EIN number, you can get your bank set up, all of that. So once that's done and you've registered online, that's step one. After that, you do a candidate declaration form. It's a form you basically simply fill out, tell all your details, get it notarized. My particular position, I have to get 125 petition signatures. I've gotten 178 qualified, so I'm well beyond what I need for that. All of those also have to be notarized. Each sheet of 12 has to be notarized once they're completed. You have to do a economic financial paperwork that's like 23 pages long, just kind of really detailing it sounds long, but it was actually pretty simple for me because I don't have like debt. Like if you don't have massive debt, it's a pretty easy form. It's like NA.
Sure.
But it's
so
23
you
pages
can't
long.
say my taxes are being audited, can you? Never mind.
No. I can't. I'll disclose that for you. So that's a form you have to do. And then there's all these timelines. So you have to submit all the paperwork after March 7th, but before April 6th, because then if you have a primary, which I do not, but primaries are June 20th. And then once primaries come through, then you move forward to the actual election, which is November 7th. You also have to pay it works out to be $356 to register for my position. So it's a percentage of the actual annual income, which is just over $17,000 a year. That's how much state delegates get paid. Where in the congressional, which I did know this, you have to pay almost $4,000, but they make $174,000. So there's the difference. Right. So yeah.
Your experience in running the first time around, I mean, obviously first time in pretty harsh environment, I'm guessing. What's it like to run?
This go around's been a lot more positive. I mean, I still get hate. Like it's pretty common. It's more on social media because I have a big platform. It's funny because like even the event tonight, this woman's really big on TikTok. Like the caucus introduced me to somebody as the TikTok mom. So like, it's funny to see these people in this political realm, like say, I don't know where she came from, but here's who she is. I kind of joke sometimes. I'm not always the Dem they asked for, but I'm the Dem they got. So, but I also think that I'm kind of a cool test case to them. I don't think most people that come into politics come in and either try to gain a following once they've, said they're going to run, or win their candidacy and then they gain a following simply because of, notoriety. Where I'm coming into the field with this large following with no, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not, some, career politician. I'm like literally a mom with an associate's degree in business that works at, part-time at a public school. So like, it's just a different world, but I think I'm growing on everybody, I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. Obviously I have a community here, which I'm sharing this journey, but it's also making the locals like know who I am and love me and appreciate what I do and what I say and what I, stand for. And so it seems to be going really well. I'm excited.
Whereas, to be honest, I think it's more than just your following here. I think you're highly influential here in the sense that others actually see that it is possible for somebody who's not a lawyer, who's not a doctor, who's not coming from the means that we usually associate with politics to make that run.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
therein lies this phenomenal power of you being on here.
Yes.
Yeah. When I joke too, I'm like, my opponent really can't come up with anything to throw at me because I'm like, there isn't anything I haven't already shared publicly online, unfortunately. But
Hey, can we do better? Are you a Washingtonian too? Because usually it's only us that knows who Patty is. Because Patty's amazing. She started out as a school board member.
yeah,
Well, to be honest, I mean,
And
Jess, I'm missing the tinfoil hat, from way back when.
a lot of you're not alone in that. You're not alone.
Gotta
Hold
come-
on one
gotta come back.
second.
Nemo knows.
I'm-
Hold on.
I got hold up. Wait for it. Where's my turn?
So suddenly everybody's leaving.
I got mine on deck. I run into enough red hats on the
That's
regular.
hilarious.
Gotta keep one at the ready. This one is broken.
I mean,
I need to make a new one.
I do
This
still
is my
have one.
Robin Hood. This is my Robin Hood tinfoil
Oh,
hat.
yours
I
is
figured
like-
if I was
Yeah, yours is like some drip. Like I like
Here,
yours.
do you like my Bernie doll?
Oh
that's
my
brilliant.
God.
Oh my
No.
God, where did you get? I need you to send me the link. I must have that.
Do you, I don't know if any of you remember or know Disappointing Middle Child, or her name was Amber. I don't think she's on TikTok anymore, or she's got a new name, but she made these things called homelies, which are like sad stuffed animals.
That is so
and-
cute.
When I was getting very political, she made me a Bernie homely. So this is one of my favorites.
So what you're seeing on screen right now is really the outcome of be careful what you wish for.
Pretty much.
I
Jess,
actually
what's
tried
it-
to put a leaf in or a feather in this, like make a tinfoil feather, and it just didn't work.
Very Robin Hoodish.
No, someone made
I
this for me
figured.
and
I
mailed
figured
it
if
to
I
me in
was
my
going to
PO
have a
box.
left.
I'm not kidding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
did. I wanted to like get some Walmart.
Was it
because-
Nemo? Nemo,
Yep.
did you mail that to her? That seems so
No.
on brand for you.
I mean, that does fit me. Yeah.
He's having a build your own moment here.
I mean,
Somebody
I
was
ju-
screen
by the way,
recorded
these
this
get-
in like a 30-second tinfoil hat crafts video.
these get really,
just-
really hot really quick, by the way. But all mine is just two triangles taped together with regular, like, school
Very
tape.
smart.
And then, of course, I can make the wings.
There's a professional one you can get on Amazon that even has like the little thing that pops under your string that pops under your neck.
Oh, don't tell me some shit.
I
like
have
that.
one.
I
It's
will
upstairs.
Spend money
It's
on you some
upstairs.
shit.
Where
I
is
just
that?
want to forewarn you in full disclosure, this tonight, episode 2, is going on to YouTube, just to let you know.
It's real.
That is
Breather
amazing.
72, my friend, thanks for coming in. I don't have a hat. That is the embarrassing revelation of tonight, I suppose. Jess, what I wanted to ask you before we got sidetracked with the haute couture, what does it take to win? What is it going to take for you to win? Let's just
For
start
me,
there.
it's going to
Yeah.
be knocking doors, making my presence known, and just really kind of setting a tone that I'm here. And, so there's about 13% of my district is in a rural community. So, typically very deeply red. And I actually lived there for 13 years. My kids went to school there for 6 years. I started a run club in their elementary school. Like, I have some ties there. But I think for me, it's going to make helping them understand that my opponent who advocates for
Welcome back,
school
Washburn.
choice is incredibly detrimental to rural Virginia and rural education. This is a district that has only two elementaries, one middle and one high school. Thanks to our, useless governor, New Kent has already lost $140 per pupil as we speak, because he lost $202 million for the entire state of Virginia's public education department. And if they remain gridlocked on their budget, which as of right now, the Republicans' budget is still keeping us shortfall at almost $80 million. But if they keep that steadfast, we're going to shortchange these schools as it is. And you also have Youngkin and other Republicans like my opponent advocating for school choice that further deficits education. And, I think I just need to help people understand why I would benefit them as a candidate. People that are more independent or more, maybe central leaning right wing people that are, able to have conversations, able to kind of have an open mind. So yeah, I think that's what's going to be the most important.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can this community help?
Yes. How can we
Um,
help?
so, I mean, I'll be honest, fundraising is huge, and that's what I've kind of been trying to do here. I'm sure you all have seen my little like pointing to things above my head in every video. I mean,
Almost missed it.
yeah, well, it's just the
Oh,
fact
that's a
that,
good question.
what is it? Have Moms
Des
of
Moines.
Liberty? Oh, I don't have Moms of Liberty in my community. Now, we definitely have our fair share of crazies at our school board meetings that we combat, but we do not have an outright Moms of Liberty that I'm aware of. We do have one of our extremely insane individuals that's running for school board, and we thankfully have someone that's running against him that's fantastic, that's very well known in the community, so we're going to advocate like hell for him to win. But, you know, people tonight joked, they're like, you have that many followings, so all of them to give you $1. I'm like, well, the problem with TikTok is not everybody sees your videos. You could have,
Yeah.
600,000 followers and then maybe 20,000 see a video at best. And that's on a good day. So, it's, but that, you figure I'm making walk cards right now, which I wish I wasn't on my phone. I could show you what they look like. Maybe I'll get my computer in a minute, but walking cards, which are these cards that have like your picture, your slogan, some bullet points of things that you stand for, a little bit of bio, and then it has a little QR code so people can travel back to my, website and learn more about me, donate if they like. But these are cards I have to have in hand when I start knocking on doors and canvassing, the 70,000, I probably won't see everybody, but, thousands of voters in this district. And that costs money, I'm going to have to, that costs money. Postcards cost money. I was looking the other day, postage for the postcards is like $8,000, depending on the number of postcards. You just think about it, like 49 cents or 39 cents a card. If you're doing, let's say half your district, with minus 70,000, that's 35,000 cards. Like, do the math. It adds up very quickly. I hired a campaign manager. She's starting next week. So I'm super excited about that. That's huge. You have to buy software. You have to buy the vote building. I think people, look at the money in politics, which some of it's, bullshit. Like, let's be real. Like, some of it's wasteful spending, but a lot of it is because you have to spend the money to be seen. Like canvassing, like people are like, well, just knock on doors. Well, that's great. But when I walk away from the door, I need them to have something in their hand to remember me. I need to have something in their hand to look back and like find me online. Right. And those things are important. Some people say postcards are a waste of money. Some people say they're great. There's a lot of different people. I have some great advisors that are on volunteer. I'm a member of one of the most incredible Democratic, local party locations, Historic Triangle Dems. They represent Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown, and they are just a fountain of knowledge. The chair there was 20 years in politics in California, and every one of them like gives something and brings something to the table. One of them's doing my graphics for my walking card, and she's been like yeah. I'm very grateful that I've had lots of on-site like helping hands. And so yeah, I think at this point it's just making sure I can pay the bills and do the things that I need to do moving forward. This will probably evolve into like having to make videos on TV, which is so weird to me. I mean, I make videos every day. It's fine. Exactly. But it's a different wheelhouse. Different. You're putting it on television. You're making a commercial, basically. You're making a commercial that shows who you are and appeals. And I really don't want to do attack politics. That's not my style. So I'm curious to see how she plays her side of the politics. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, if I can get enough faces, if I can get my name out there, if I can get enough fundraising, and one of the videos I made recently was kind of updating everybody. When every 3 months we do a quarterly report, so I have to like upload all my donations into the database for the Virginia elections. Now, the only ones that get shown on my report are ones that are $101 and over. So that's why I've been kind of advocating for like $5, $2, $1, because those donors, like, they add up for me, but people all around the nation don't have to worry about their names being broadcasted on some list or whatever. This is, the only people that are being seen are the higher dollar donors. And even that, people don't always look. And if they're out of state, they're like, well, what good are they going to be to me? Like, I have a resource that a lot of other people don't have access to. National donations on a state, run election is unusual,
So it
but
is
it's
Yeah,
legal and loud here,
right.
so that's the benefit.
good.
So one of the predominant issues you're experiencing is just simply the range that you need to cover geographically and the reach to actually get there. So the little bombshell, sort of probably very premature announcement that I want to throw out is that yours truly is contemplating sort of a podcast for the exact reason to promote the chesses of the world, to allow an additional outlet, if you will, to have your message be evergreen. And if somebody has a question that essentially goes beyond the few minutes that you can spend at the door when you knock, is that you can direct them towards a platform.
Yeah.
And not to put you on the spot, but the offer stands. I'll put this together here in the next probably couple of days. And then I'll just reach out to you and see if you want to come on. And if not, absolutely,
No,
perfectly
absolutely.
fine.
I welcome any
boom.
opportunity to speak on
All right.
this. Yeah, and
I think I just
and like that's
cornered
why I
myself there.
really, I really loved your video the other day, and that's why I kind of used it for messaging
Sure.
because, I don't think people understand, and you were talking about 2024, which is crucial, but like people don't understand that these local and state elections are the driving force to those big congressional and
1,000%.
federal elections. And if we have the baseline of power in the state and local, we have the ability to make big waves when it comes to federal elections. And
Yep.
a lot of people aren't even aware. Like people, we're what we call a bellwether state ourselves, New Jersey, Louisiana, Kentucky has a few, and then I think Mississippi is the fourth one. There's 4 big states that have their General Assembly elections this November, 2023. And people don't even know this. There's people that are like, oh, there's an election this year. I mean, I have people that I've had sign my paper so I can get on the ballot, and they're like, oh, there's an election this year. I'm like, yes, there's school board, there's board of
There's elections
supervisors.
every year.
Right, exactly.
Well,
There
but
are
that's the
elections
interesting
everywhere.
thing, right? I mean,
Yeah,
as invested as I am in the entire topic, I didn't know that either. I picked up on the 2023 idea because you actually mentioned it. So I
yeah,
was completely blissfully unaware of it as well. But this is essentially where now this entire trajectory originated, was in part because of your comment saying, well, wait a minute, we got to do something more faster.
yeah,
And I'll be honest, until I moved to Washington State and registered, and I get the little like books that outline each of the districts, each of the candidates, and they have like a little blurb in there of each of them. Some of them are absolute fodder, but oh my God, some of the Trumpians. Anyway, but I didn't know that as a voter, I had such a hand until I moved here to Washington, and I'm automatically signed up for mail-in voting, which fucking rocks. And
yeah,
number 2, about a month before I get my ballot, I get this wonderful little book, and I can go through it, and I can joke at some of the campaigners, and then I can sit here and I can circle the ones that are my district. So when I get my ballot in, I've got them right there ready to go. I already know who I've picked. I've already looked into them and what have you.
yeah.
And the fact that, let's see, we don't have, oh, what are they called? Oh, damn it. I just forgot the name of them. Anyway, there's all different kinds of positions on the local level that a
Yeah.
lot of people don't. Yes, Miss Bay. A lot of people don't know, and in some areas aren't the best about informing their
Messaging. Yeah.
constituents.
Well, they do it
Yeah, like
intentionally. It's
they
very intentional.
exactly. It's exactly,
To
I
the
absolutely.
mean,
It does.
I'm very, yeah. In Virginia, we have our polls are open. It's either 4 or 6 weeks leading up to election day. So we
Yes.
have massive access to voting, which is something that's going to, wave in my favor. We also have option for mail-in voting. Now you do have to request it, but you get basically a letter that says, would you like to opt in? And if you say yes, they'll send you it. But yeah, we have so many opportunities for people to go in and vote before election day. So, but not many states do that, as we know.
Yeah.
Many states go out of their way to make sure that isn't a possibility. So it's unfortunately for some people, it's going out of their way to find out what elections are happening, who's running, investigating these people that are running, because even though there's a D or an R in front of them, that doesn't always, we have 2 Democrats in our that are both anti-choice. So never let a D make you think you're voting the right way, because it's not always true.
I mean,
I smell what you're stepping in. I smell what you're
Um,
stepping in.
Let me throw a couple of
I
things.
mean, they
Let
are
me throw a
Ds,
couple of things out
so
there real quick. We do have a couple of rock star guests here in the viewer section, if you will. TJ and a girl has no name. I sent you invites, both of you, and I just saw Greg Grunge come on as well, but I think
I
he
love
dropped off
Greg.
again.
Greg's
Greg's
awesome.
awesome. Would have loved to
Yeah.
invite him, but I think he has moved on. Otherwise, TJ and Girl Has No Name, there are invites that you should be able to click on and join us. And since some people actually know me personally who are in the comment section, particularly one fine gentleman who hung me out to dry last time, but I'm going to ask
Gen
his
X
question anyway.
dad.
Gen X dad, okay. He's good at that. Let me ask you his question. This essentially, I just want to throw it out generally as a topic. What are your thoughts on the United Nations calling out the U.S. for human rights violations?
100%.
Long overdue.
It's,
Long overdue.
yeah, very long overdue. And
I
it's
mean,
the
they've
fact that
been
we had to
calling us
write
out.
letters to get it. Well, we had, but to really get
Yes.
them on board, we had to have multiple organizations that advocate for women's rights and reproductive
Yep.
freedom to say, hey, we need your attention.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're speaking up, but I wish it wouldn't have. I mean, we're nearly a year into like these hellscape nightmares of abortion rights
Yes.
being under
The
attack.
fact of the matter is, the U.S. ever since Bush Jr. and Operation, I want to say the end of Iraqi freedom and then into enduring freedom, we've been being cited by the UN for human rights violations ever since then.
Yeah.
Like it's been incessant, but that was actually coming from outside. This is one of the first issues in regards to Roe v. Wade that it's the calls coming from inside the house to the UN.
I mean,
And
unfortunately, I would say like I fully support it.
Oh,
I think it's a great. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, Kasali 2.0 needs to be modded. This is her backup, and
Yeah, I'm trying.
as you're
except,
aware, Professor,
I
so
just
many of
blocked
us
my entire
caught
screen
bands.
somehow.
They need to
Oh
like
no,
redo the mod thing on here, like how to make people mods. It's so tedious to do it.
it is.
Yeah.
It's
But yeah, I mean,
they tuck weird shit into the settings in weird places.
they really
on this
do.
app.
It doesn't make any
I've really
damn
had
sense.
to. It's not intuitive
Also,
for a
if
GUI.
if TikTok is listening, can you please give me dark mode on Android, please? Thank you. I've been waiting.
Please and thank you as well. I second
I love
that.
Yeah,
dark mode. Dark mode is on every aspect of my phone.
legit. Like,
Same,
okay, I'm already
except for this app.
I'm being peer pressured into
Well,
getting an
I have an
iPhone.
iPhone, so
I am being peer pressured into getting an iPhone because like the group chat that I'm in, everybody's got an iPhone except me, so it breaks
and
everything.
it shows
And
it shows your
That
green
happens to me
nonsense.
too.
yep,
Yeah.
I get shamed all the
You
time. They send
mean
videos and all that stuff. Yep.
We
quite
we
What?
exile green
literally
boxes.
join the dark
Okay, that's
join
the
the
kind of
dark
people
side.
we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
for my professional life, I like Apple because Mac and Apple have some amazing applications in regards
my
to
MacBook is
photography, music, and lighting, and all the other stuff I do in production for live events. But Android, where I like to play, I get to play a little more. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sure
I've been
that's
on
an
Apple so
email.
long. I don't even know how to use an
I
Android.
mean, just gonna go stay quiet. Just gonna stay quiet. Just gonna keep things to myself.
No,
But yeah, no, I agree with you. It was never in a professional capacity, but I did do graphic design for a
Linux
while.
does
That was
work.
my first like love, I guess. And I highly preferred Mac for that. Like Mac OS was just superior in every way for
It's
that.
got a lot of good aspects with regards to live events and production, but when it comes to my phone, I don't like. I have skills of a misspent youth coming up with the internet, and there are things that I still like to. Oh, puppy! Why do you got to
Oh
keep
yeah.
derailing me? You got to keep
Sorry.
discombobulating me. Gosh, Jess,
Hi.
I so rarely get to
That's
use
why
that
we have
word.
dogs.
I had to lock
Fine.
my cat out. I was respectful and locked my cat out because she will show you that boo hole.
Oh
Oh no,
yeah.
He'll scratch at the door excessively if I close him out. He'll be like, he will have none of it.
Oh, mine will scream at the door. I'm surprised she hasn't yet.
So
Okay,
yeah,
I'm
I think
completely
that
flying blindfolded. I can't see anything on my screen. It's completely locked up with all kinds
Oh
of
no.
oh, that's
TikTok-related
weird.
applets.
Yeah.
So I have
So
no idea what the heck's going on.
if you change the layout, sometimes that helps fix things.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
true. For
Um,
host, yeah, because
yeah.
host
So
has
if you
limited
just like
options on that.
yeah, for some reason that fixes it occasionally. And then if that doesn't work,
Then
then you basically have to like restart the live. But you can the easy one is to just swap the layout because sometimes that fixes it.
Hey Jess, I don't know if you saw because I'm small. On my main account, Celtic Ginge, I actually started this month with a call to action, which was
Hmm.
basically for International Women's Month. We need to be supporting other women. Would you and I be able to meet in the middle and maybe a way I can actually send people your direction, women helping women, women aspiring for better and for our world and in this world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe we could get together and do a promo video to get some campaign funds to you. I think it was Walker for Colorado did some mild whistleblowing before this last election on like what it
Oh,
actually takes and costs. I don't know, Nemo. I
oh, yeah,
think you
it's
were following
crazy.
too. I think it was Walker for Colorado. He was talking
Mm.
about how
I,
you need
I,
to
I feel like
basically
I
be a
follow him.
millionaire.
Hmm.
Like you need to be a
Oh,
millionaire in order to run for office.
so
Yeah.
the first event I went to recently was a Planned Parenthood lobby day with Planned Parenthood advocates for Virginia. And we went to the lobby day to speak to some of the delegates and senators. And interesting enough, I got chatting with this gentleman who's running in a primary. He has a primary that he's running, and he was a Democrat, but he's running against another Democrat. And he informed me that he invested $100,000 of his personal funds into his campaign. And I almost threw up. And I'm like, for real? And he's like, well, yeah. And I literally like, and I didn't think like, when you just speak before thinking, and I said, yeah, I don't have that kind of money. He's like, well, neither do I. And I'm like, clearly. And I felt like going, clearly you do if you were able to do
Um,
such. Um,
as a high school band and music geek, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
well, and like,
I
and so
call
a lot,
bullshit.
yeah. And like, I tell people, I'm like, I've been very open about what I make, but I work part time as a receptionist at a front office of an elementary school that pays their.
It's like yeah, a little glitch there.
yeah, everything just completely locked up and then threw me out. So that was a little disheartening. Let's
Yeah,
get everybody
that
back
happens.
in.
Yeah,
Um,
we can still salvage it.
yeah,
You're good.
Kel said there was an update that was pushed through, so
Yep. Yep.
maybe
Normally, what I
that's the
do
reason.
what I normally do before I do a live, which I haven't actually hosted a live in a while, but when before I do a live, I always check to make sure that there isn't like an app update. Like I'll go to like the App Store or the Play Store and like check to see if there's an update available just to get it out of the way. That way, it doesn't decide to randomly update in the middle of the live.
Right, which
Because
I actually did, and it didn't show me any updates, but suddenly,
yeah,
Yeah, I did the
boom.
same
Oh,
thing.
audio is better now too, so that's good. Audio is cleaner, awesome.
And now
And
I have live
TJ has
pause for
joined us.
him, and I can't see me or Professor.
yeah, I think so. I can see you, Kel, and yeah, no, I can see everybody. I can't see Professor. Just I think
Or
it's showing live
Disco.
pause. I'm pretty sure he's. It's just because he's out of the or he's doing
Yeah,
things.
I can see myself and everybody else. So
Okay. Yeah, no, odds are once you
Um,
finish doing what you're doing, you'll pop back up. Sometimes
yeah.
it's weird
I'm
like
gonna.
that.
Somebody just asked whether it's worth moving, and I am really on the fence with that in a sense that if you are within a group of people that are actively targeted, LGBTQ, BIPOC community, I would say it certainly makes sense that you observe your safety above everything else. And
Yeah.
at that point, it
I
makes sense to
agree.
me. But if you're not among the affected groups, then I'd say we have got to stay and quasi stand our ground and make sure that we are heard, as well as try as much as
Yeah.
possible to change what's going on. TJ, it is great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
For those
Yeah,
who do not know TJ, if you have any questions regarding group psychology, followership, anything related to the misery that we're experiencing at rapid speed, he's the man.
What are you doing, Nemo?
cleaning my camera thingy.
I may have to pop out and pop back in because I see live paused for Professor. I see nothing for my square, and that just makes me feel weird. And
Yeah.
give me just
Yeah,
a
no,
minute. I'll be right
I see
back.
live pause as well. Yeah, I'm
It may need to be
Okay.
rebooted as far as the live itself.
So somebody, okay, 72 can see all of us. I can see Nemo as well. TJ, who has a wonderful looking screenshot. Although I'm missing
Yes.
the red rimmed glasses, my friend. I'm missing those.
That is so
Yeah, we
funny.
just lost Nemo. Like, I don't know what is going on with this app.
I don't know. It's
Like,
quite quirky tonight. There's Nemo coming back. TJ, can I put you on the spot for just a hot second?
Sure.
You spoke a lot in your recent recordings about followership, about how people are being affected by that which is unfolding in front of our eyes. What makes the ones who are trending towards the far right so unapproachable? When you show up with facts, when you show up with figures, when you even show up with empathy, they still are resistant. What contributes to that type of absence from what otherwise I would consider a useful dialogue?
I've been conducting a whole series of interviews the last few days asking that very question. One of the answers that I'm getting is the depth of the racism is more than I ever knew. People are so racist, and it began with President Obama, that they
the
hated
last 2
having
years. The last
yeah,
2 years, especially.
yeah, people hated having a black president so much it just stuck in their craw. So that's part of it. The second one is definitely that white people are afraid that they are no longer going to be in power, that they're going to become a minority. And I've heard that actually voiced by white people, that they literally are afraid that once they become a minority, everything that they did to the people of color is going to be done to them, which is
So we are sitting deep in the amygdala and fear is kicking in, and
Yep.
anything of
so
logical processing value is no longer being considered, essentially.
yes. The
yeah.
the third thing is religion, that there are people who truly have given their soul, if you will, to these pastors, these evangelical pastors and ministers who tell them you're going to go to hell if you do anything regarding LGBTQ and
Hmm.
transgender. I mean, we just saw in North Carolina where they're attempting now to pass a bill to execute women who have an abortion. I mean, that is so extreme. That is straight out of Iran. I mean, my heavens.
I want you to take in my face as the one AFAB and femme presenting person on this panel. That just took my breath away because I hadn't heard about that yet. I'd heard about the law about discriminating against pro-choice women and women who've had an abortion, and I have had an abortion.
Yeah.
And my reasons are nobody's damn business. But as is any other woman who makes that choice. But like the fact that we can be fired from jobs, I've already been fired for not being
Right.
Christian in my lifetime. I've been fired for being a pagan in my lifetime. And oddly enough, from a Presbyterian church as their choir director.
Which ties
How
back to
Christian.
something that Black, I didn't write the name down. Black, oh my God, Kansas, 11 anti-abortion bills on the docket.
Which is just
I think
overkill, if you ask me.
ties right back into it.
Yeah, I have a interesting, or I guess at least on this panel, I probably have a unique perspective on, I guess, the rightward shift that you're like looking into. Because, and somebody had mentioned it in the comments, and hopefully they're still here. They asked, is there hope? So the answer is yes, because I fell into the alt-right back in 2015. My turbo leftist, crazy,
Bad squishy.
borderline Marxist ass, me. I like fully drank the Kool-Aid into the alt-right back in 2015. Oddly enough, throughout that entire experience, I was still pro-Hillary and voted for Hillary, even though all of that was going on. It was a weird dissonance, but what that's the thing, right? Is that the overarching theme throughout, or the I guess the connecting theme throughout is this massive dissonance in everything. There's so much cognitive dissonance. It isn't logical.
I see all of you
That's
now.
the thing.
I see all of you now. Yay. Okay,
Yeah.
everything's good. I can see everybody now.
It isn't logical at all.
No.
But it's not really supposed to be logical, because all of your motivations are drawn purely from raw emotion. And so
the wrong ones.
yes, certainly. Primarily it is hatred and anger,
Fear.
and fear and envy in a way. So at the time, the ironic part is the way that I fell into it, and there's been whole YouTube channels have been dedicated to this phenomena, where there was on YouTube there was this sphere of people that were referred to as skeptics, and so skeptics were, prior to, I would say, 2014, 2015, or I guess the Gamergate thing, whatever. Prior to that, they were skeptics when it came to religion. So up to that point, it was very easy to find some kooky Christian person, saying kooky Christian shit on YouTube, like saying, I got the proof for God, here it is, oh my God, or whatever. So it was very easy to make content out of that, and so there was a whole community built out of that, and those were the skeptics.
So in Indrid's live, you were talking with somebody, and you mentioned something like the no fault.
Yep.
What can you bring that back up?
Yeah. So that community is full of or was full of a ton of different personalities. Now it's dissolved, but the ones he mentioned, one name who was Matt Dillahunty. Now Matt Dillahunty, he was kind of like I guess not really part of the community in the same way, because his stuff wasn't purely YouTube. Like he had like a show, he had like a thing that you call into. Whereas a lot of the skeptics, like for me, my personal favorites, back in the day, it was TJ Kirk, also known as the Amazing Atheist. He still has a YouTube channel. He still does his thing. But he was like my primary one. And then there were a ton of different other ones. So for a long time, they, basically did, it was a typical format. They would take a video, they would break it apart, and, they'd let the video play for a second, cut, do some commentary, cut back to the video, proceed, and that's just how it worked, right? And they would just do logical breakdowns, right? It's pretty pretty easy to dismantle arguments that way. That's what they would
Which is
do.
what Indra tries to do. Indra tries to correct information, but specifically what I was asking about was the, what did you call it? It's basically like I can say that, you know, there's a rainbow colored unicorn behind you,
Oh yeah,
and everybody, what was that? Speak
that
on that,
is
because
so
that
there's
was fascinating.
yeah. So there's two, right? So there's proving a negative and non-falsifiable arguments, which are very
That's it.
very
That's it.
intimately linked.
Yeah.
And so, you know, non-falsifiable argument is it's true because it's true, right? Or it's true because this book says it's true. And this book is
Yeah.
true because the book says that it's true. Therefore, it's true. Well, that's a non-falsifiable argument. You know, like it's impossible to falsify it. Same thing with
It
a
ends up being a
conspiracy.
circle.
Yeah,
So basically, it's a
it's a
contemporary version of Pascal's wager.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
other examples of non-falsifiable arguments are like conspiracy theories, right? So, like, if a conspiracy, for instance, flat Earth, right? Flat Earthers, there's been several documentaries. There's one on Netflix, highly recommend, called Behind the Curve. It is really well done. It's not boring at all. They follow flat earthers, go into the community to try and understand how this came about, why they think this. At the end of it, the at several points throughout the documentary, the flat earthers accidentally prove that the earth is round. And that's when you see the non-falsifiable argument occur, because then they just incorporate it into the conspiracy theory. They incorporate this like, well, it wasn't exactly that because of X, Y, and Z. Same thing with like any other conspiracy theory. Oh yeah, well that you proved my argument wrong about the moon not being real. Yeah, well that was not real. Those things that you said, not that yeah, that was just manufactured. Non-falsifiable arguments. When
Well, I mean,
everything is a part of the conspiracy. Sorry, go ahead.
moving the goalpost is
Exactly.
the
That is one
hallmark
of
of
their
all this,
favorite
right?
things to do.
Absolutely.
That is in abortion conversations. That's in religious conversations, and then not to mention moving the goalpost and throwing in a straw man or a red herring or ad hoc.
Yeah.
I would love if Daryl Davis. If you don't know who Daryl Davis is, he is a black musician. He's amazing. If you don't listen to him, listen to him. But I wish he would write a few just like Idiot's Guide to Converting, because Daryl Davis is a musician who managed to convert people away from the Triple K. And he got them to reanalyze and oh, damn brain fog.
Realign.
He got the, thank you, realign. There's something close to what I was thinking, yes. But he got them to become humanists as opposed to anti-humanists or Yazis.
Through which mechanics? Because that requires some
Conversations.
significant time and effort and
Conversations.
consistency.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah. I think
conversations.
that's the same
And,
thing. Yeah,
like, I
the
would
same
love if he
thing.
wrote a book on like a how-to.
Yeah. The same thing happened with me. My deconversion, like it took a while. So like it was a slow process in. It was one of those things where it's just, you know, a little bit at a time, and then all of a sudden you're fully in this shit, listening to extremely toxic viewpoints and not really reacting to how toxic the shit is.
Yeah.
Because you're just used to it. You're like, yeah, this sounds about right.
Yeah.
And also I think a lot of this is it comes from this need that we as humans have for community. We need to be a part of something. We need to have that feeling.
This is where we get into some intersectionality. And I'm addressing this because someone in the comments has asked that, you know, at least speak on behalf of some intersectionality, because we're all white people. But here's the thing. Two of the tenets of white supremacist culture are the entitlement to comfort and individualistic thinking. And the fact of the matter is, one of the things that we end up giving up to be a part of U.S. society, and as well as a part of whiteness, is we give up the communities that we were prior to being white. For example, I used to be Irish, and they had some beautiful communities within Irish culture. clans and all. But, we need to, again, Nemo hears me say this. A lot of people in the chat hear me say this. We need to be listening, especially to Black women. Black women have been leading this charge for 100 years. And if you look on this app and if you message me, I can send you creators on this app that really put your heart in the right place. Their hearts are in the right place, and they will put your heart in the right place, and they will let you see how activism is the cure for despair in this situation. The current situation we are in, activism, action, enacting positive change in your spheres of influence, which is why I'm taking this diatribe currently. But
there's one issue with that. And I think what you just so wonderfully described essentially is tribal belonging, just group think being embedded within the structure of that which is known to you.
And it can go good or bad too.
Right. Nemo, correct me if I'm off track here, but as you engaged in your own, let's just say, repositioning, you had to leave your tribe to some degree and embark on essentially a new direction before you arrived at a new type of belonging. Within that, there is a moment of perhaps loneliness, solitude, not belonging to anything or anyone because you haven't arrived yet after you had just left the origin.
Yeah.
I think in that space is fear.
Yeah.
Because
you're highly vulnerable in that state, which is why consistency is so important with it.
Yes.
Because when you know, a couple people had mentioned it in the chat where they had said, there's that moment where you realize, like you have a moment where you kind of like wake up for a second, like you like the light bulb comes on, and I can pinpoint that moment. But even in that moment, there's this impulse, because we're all creatures of habit, right? So there's this impulse, this fear response that you have to that thought where it's like, okay, yeah, but I don't want to change. This will be admitting that I've been wrong this whole time. And I hurt a lot of my relationships as part of this horrible thing that I went through. And so there's this like fear response that you have, but once you press through that fear response, then you get to this numbness and this waywardness where you're just kind of lost, right? And you could easily be pulled back. And that's why it's so important to be so consistent with people that you feel like you can actually deconvert. There are people that simply are beyond help. Absolutely. That is the fact.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Not everyone.
What's the old psychology joke? How many
Absolutely. That is the fact.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Not everyone.
What's the old psychology joke? How many with the light bulb has to want to change?
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
if they're benefiting from that system, or they get to be lazy in how they view the world. I mean, at this point, and again, I'm going to amplify Black voices on this and say, look, we've been telling you this for a long time. Now that, it's affecting all women, now you're looking for our help. But it's a matter of, we don't have the option of being ignorant anymore. We have applications like TikTok, which scares the shit out of the legislative right, as well as, people at all levels on the right. It's because this is changing hearts and minds, and they can't fucking control it. And the fact of the matter is, we have to pull people out of complacency because, and apparently this gentleman, TJ, right here, is probably a lot more psychologically like.
He's the in-house electrician right now, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. I was gonna say if he's the one with the psych degree, but mine is merely experiential psych, observational.
No, I think TJ, you were in clinical, right?
Yes, I've been a director of counseling at 4 different universities and a professor of psychology.
There you go.
So if I'm wrong, we have to show people how it affects them when they don't think it affects them. It's why we hear Black voices constantly telling us that yes, systemic racism coming out into Reconstruction, yes, it did affect white folks too. They were an unintended consequence. They were, friendly fire, but that is why you have people like Chairman Fred Hampton who managed to unite the Young Patriots, oh crap, I forgot Cha Cha's group, the Latino group, and as well as the Black Panther Party with the Rainbow Coalition to show this is how systemic racism, this is how white supremacist culture, and this is how fascism is affecting us all. It drags us all. If we're not a part of that top tier, then we're disposable. And you
So,
have to show people how psychologically, which
mhm.
is where I'm going to point to him and cue this gentleman and say,
So, you mentioned Daryl Davis, and I was able to work with him a little bit in 2006,
I'm
Wow.
jealous. I'm
and
jealous.
and the work of James Prochaska. Are you familiar with his work? The
Mm.
Uh,
five the five stages of change, and I think
oh, I've heard of him.
that's so that's where I think our work lay, and that's what I believe he would tell you. I uh, I just put up a post about Daryl Davis about 3 or 4 days ago, but he, when he would meet with the Ku Klux Klan people, he would introduce himself, and they were pre-contemplative that black people were humans, and that's the first stage is pre-contemplation. And I'm seeing in the comments here a lot of people are saying it's not possible. Daryl Davis is proof that anything is possible, but it takes time. So pre-contemplation to contemplation is the first step, and you've got to introduce to people. So what I've been saying on my posts is we need to get Congress and our representatives to quit talking at each other and get them to meet trans people and LGBTQ people and Native Americans, and they need to shut up and just meet Americans. Then what happens is after you move from pre contemplation, you move to contemplation. Contemplation is what Nemo was talking about, where people are going, I don't know if I want to do this. Well, I think I do want to do it. Well, here are the reasons not to do it. Yeah, but I should do it. So in contemplation, you're going through all of the arguments. And at that point, that's where Daryl Davis hung in there with them. He would go, well, look, I'm not asking you to leave the Ku Klux Klan. I'm just saying, let's keep our friendship going. That's all it was I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. And that's the key. As soon as you try to talk somebody out of something, they're going to get defensive. And like people here are saying, they dig in their heels. So you don't do that. You just keep up with the relationship. Then the third step is preparing to change. Now that's up to the person where they say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking maybe the Ku Klux Klan ain't for me. Or, hey, these trans people are kind of nice. You look for the first crack in the armor. And that's where you go, well, tell me more. You don't try to change their mind. You get them to talk more about their thoughts and about their feelings. So what you're doing is giving them the space to talk themselves into the change. That's
That
the
echoes. I can't
yeah.
remember the gentleman that American History X
I'm
was
so glad that you brought that up. God,
because that's
fuck.
exactly what had happened with
I
him, with
I
the gentleman that
love
it was
you,
based on.
Celtic. I freaking love you so much. That's one of my all-time movies. Like ironically enough, I watched that movie a lot, like whenever I was younger. But during that awkward period, I watched that movie, and there were those moments in that movie that just they hit really different when you're in that emotional state. But yes, so American History X. I mean,
I mean,
pro tip:
the
if you
part,
haven't seen it, it's not for the faint of heart. It's
yes,
a
massive
fucking masterpiece.
violins. Trigger warning. There's one
Yeah,
scene that
yeah.
still gets
There.
me like, but yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
ultimately what
still.
happened. The
Yeah,
gentleman that movie is based on did an interview, and actually every chance he gets to
yeah.
gentleman that movie is based on did an interview, and actually every chance he gets to, and as far as how the alt-right, like there's so many documentaries he's been on, and I for the life of me, I can't think of his name and I'm ashamed. But he said basically what it boiled down to is this person gave me community. That's what they ultimately seek out when they find themselves in the alt-right. They feel disenfranchised. They feel like they're oppressed. Like we make jokes about, white men want to feel like they're oppressed. And they find somebody who supports them as they are, not asking anything of them. And frankly, I mean, I give major kudos to those people because that to me is up there with people who give bone marrow like to total strangers because it takes a lot of fucking spoons. It takes a lot of
You have
patience.
to, when you zoom out and recognize the unfortunately two sides of the rift here, if you will. The Republicans are longitudinally much more committed, organized, tribal,
Long game.
and invested in their cause. I posted a video, it's been, I think, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, what have you, with the onset in the 80s, where the moral majority with, what's his face again, Jerry Falwell, Reagan, and basically the lead up to what we're experiencing today. This was 50 years ago.
Rush
Yep.
Limbaugh was a huge part of where we are
Limbaugh
at
is
today
one
now.
of them, sure. But I mean, that was 40 years in the making. That's 40 years of commitment. That's 40 years of forged alliances. That's 40 years of working on one defined outcome, or perhaps 2 or 3 defined outcomes, but they come out of the same denominator. And then we look at the democratic liberal kind of avenue, if you will, and you recognize that we are happy in our individualism and we accept each other's individualism. But unfortunately, in that, there is no unity.
Yeah.
And when you look at that in a comparative, then it's no wonder that we're confronted with what we're looking at right now. It's just simply that organizational element that we're lacking. And
I also
that
think.
was
Good. Sorry.
Now that also, I mean, just to finalize the point here, I think that goes back to one of the, I would say, very, really worthy endeavors was Occupy Wall Street.
Yes.
Started on a really great trajectory and got lost in 17 different directions and agenda items, as opposed to focusing on a maximum of 3. And within that dilution came the downfall. And again, back to the Republicans, look what they're working on. It's the same 3 to 4 key elements all the time. It works. And we are just not up to that game right now.
Well, also, this system is working exactly as it's designed. It's designed, and I'm going to say this from the perspective of a queer, AFAB, femme-presenting, white woman in this society. And yes, I have always been an empathetic person. That comes from my trauma, and I embrace that. But the fact of the matter is, there are times I feel fucking overwhelmed. And I'm not the only one. I'm just speaking from personal experience because I am qualified on that. And the fact of the matter is, it feels overwhelming all the time because I am part of the LGBTQIA plus community. I am a part of the women being attacked on this. And then I'm an empathetic human on an anti-racist journey and trying to, box for my Black, brown, and indigenous folks. And so like it gets overwhelming, and that is exactly how this system is designed. It's meant to make you get so overwhelmed that you throw your hands in the air and you're cowed back into complacency and compliance. And what Professor was saying there, pick up, I hate to say the term, but pick 3 pet projects. Say, these are going to be my focuses. These are going to be what I'm going to put my energy into, especially for those of us who, oh, sorry, forgot to mention another intersection, chronic illness and post COVID. So I am by all means disabled in a lot of but pick where you have expertise, where you can actively create positive change. And because there's a lot of us, there's a lot of us. I'm not trying to be the pick me girl here, but there's a lot of us out here. We see this app changing hearts and minds. We see conversations happening that wouldn't have happened 3 or 4 or 5 or 20, 30 years ago. So have faith. This is a long game, my babies. Long game. It's likely not going to be solved in our lifetime, but we all have to put up the fight.
I've
And we have to
seen
give Gen
one.
Z the energy.
I've seen one term cycle through the chat here since you picked up the ball, Kelt, and that is the feeling of overwhelm, which was actually the key ingredient of today's video that I posted. And I don't want to jump into that too deeply because we obviously have a highly acknowledged resource in the room. TJ, how do we get up out of overwhelm to the degree that that we're affected with right now, in a sense that we are bombarded with stimuli to the nth degree from not
It's
just local,
despair.
but also just across the US sections, if you will, from Florida to Tennessee, Texas, what have you. How do we get out of that overwhelm?
The so as I've talked about in my posts, the students that I have in my classes, in a class of 60, the overwhelm is the main issue. They're clinically 60 to 70% are clinically diagnosed with anxiety and or depression, and upwards of 40% have attempted suicide. That's an amazing number. The overwhelm, I have attacked it from the approach, and it has worked with them, is that number one, that they care for themselves. So I have to reteach this concept of self-love. And I do it through teaching them about the word sacredness, that they're sacred. And it really does begin there, because with overwhelm, you forget to eat, you forget to sleep, you forget to exercise, you forget to care for yourself. And so it has to go all the way back to that, taking care of yourself. The second thing is relationships with other people, that people begin to shut down and hide in their rooms. And this problem of acedia, which is I don't care and I don't care that I don't care. It's a real pandemic. And so you have to yank them out of that by getting them back into nature. And then after they're somewhat healthy again, each person has to figure out what is it that you can do. So you have to have something that each person feels accomplished at. So it varies from person to person. Some people might want to run for the school board, and somebody else might just want to put posters up around campus, or other people want to do a podcast. But every person in my class, what I do with them is say, what's going to work for you? There's 4 components to self-esteem that I think we all know. Love of self, knowing that you're loved unconditionally by one other person, that you think you're worthwhile, and that you're doing things of worth for others. And when 2 or more of those are missing, you're in trouble. And so those are the 4 things that I'm always working towards with people. So one thing, I know I'm talking too much, but one thing I want to make sure that is heard again, just for a second, going back to Daryl Davis, because this to me is really fascinating. The people that left the Ku Klux Klan Celtic didn't have a community to return to because the clan, and if you remember, he had like the grand whatever. It wasn't
It
just
was it,
the
it was
the
a grand wizard,
soldiers.
I think.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
think.
So when these people left the clan, and he had 60 personally that left, and over 200 eventually that left because of his work. They they weren't left with another community. So ultimately, why did they leave? It was human decency. In the end, it came down to to and if you think of Ku Klux Klan as maybe the most despicable people on earth, I don't know, but it came down to human decency, and that's why they left. So I think if on a county or city by city basis, people can introduce political people to trans, LGBTQ, all of the groups, I think that's how it's going to change. Because I think these people in Washington, D.C., yeah, they're the Boberts and the Gateses, they're so far gone, I'm not sure what we can do with them. But I
Other than
think,
get them ousted from office, run against them as much as
yeah,
we can.
but
Yeah.
I think the local politicians, I think that's where we have to do the work. I agree with Professor that it's right there that we have to just change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the complacency from the left and a lot of the frustration from the left is the fact that, like, and this applies not just to anti-fascist work, it applies to, the masks and this whole pandemic. It applies in a lot of areas. And it's the fact that, you know, oh shit, I just lost it. Watchbar texted me. Sorry, Watchbar. Watchbar does want me to make an
that's what you get.
announcement. Yeah, that's exactly what I get. Watchbar also wants to say, hey, if you are in the chat, the mods are saying if you are in the chat and you're not engaging and you're just kind of creeping around and you don't pass the vibe check, you will be booted.
Uh-oh. Tough,
Nice.
tough going in there.
Uh,
I just want to answer a couple of things real quick that I saw
I'll
in the
come back
chat.
to my thought a minute.
For one, of course, thank you, Brammer. Absolutely, if you haven't yet, subscribe to TJ. Unbelievably invaluable content. Cannot just underline this anymore. A couple of responses in the chat were that we can't just up and move, and therein obviously lies one of the great limitations. And whether that's economic restraints or just simply being embedded within the fabric of the community with family and so forth, whatever your reasons are of not being able to move, I think we all have to respect that. And we can't quite point our finger saying, well, you bad person, you're just whining and you're not moving. But I think the unfortunate reality on the flip side is that if there is a restraint that bars you from moving, it should be all the more fuel to become locally engaged.
It should be motivation
And
for you to stay and fix the problem.
This doesn't mean grabbing the picket sign and just running out on the street and exposing yourself to a degree that you're uncomfortable with. But it goes back to the whole tribal experience, right? Find what works for you and engage. The only thing that is going to continue to drive us towards that cliff, that I keep saying, if we fall off that cliff, there are no allied forces to come to our rescue. It's just not going to happen. There is also no parachute if we fall over.
Nope.
The thing that's going to get us there is complacency. And any little bit of help, if you can't move, any little bit of help to your local community, to a candidate, put stamps on a postcard, doesn't even matter. Any interaction that furthers the cause is already improvement. And that's really it.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Muffled. Yeah. That's my general disposition.
Yeah, I don't belong to any, I guess, marginalized group whatsoever. I'm straight, cis, white dude, but I am extremely left leaning, and I'm not fucking leaving. I live in Georgia. Like
And you've got the most
it
power to enact change.
exactly. So I in my mind, even though I probably have the means to move, um, I should be one of the last to do it because the old adage, first they came for whoever. Uh, I'm going to be the last one that they come for, which is leftists who don't fall into any of those other categories, who don't fall into those easily marginalized categories. I'm just a white dude. I don't stick out amongst people like red hats who think that
I
or
definitely stick
I
out.
guess I look just like any other red hat would, right? So I don't stick out, but I'm a leftist. I will be the last one that they come for. And because of that, I
Mhm.
should be the last one to leave. I should be here until it gets to a point where I have to leave.
Well,
Um,
the fact is, they want the blue dots to leave those
yeah,
areas. They
exactly.
want
That
them
that
to,
that is
and
why such toxic legislation is being pushed right now, which this just further reinforces how important local elections are. Because yes, national elections are extremely important, but state legislatures right now, like South Carolina, great example of this bullshit that just happened. That's because South Carolina is a deeply red state, but that's also because of the state legislature. If it was not as insanely tilted towards red hats, then maybe that wouldn't have passed. And that's why you have to fight as much as you can. I was at a very low point. I would say probably 8 months ago before I started this, and I reached out to Beau the Fifth Column, which if you guys are on YouTube or like if you are on YouTube and you watch political stuff on YouTube, Beau the Fifth Column is an excellent creator on there. I reached out to him on Twitter
he's
and I
nice.
sent him a
He's nice.
DM and I just kind of explained where I was in life and said, I'm scared all the time and I'm exhausted all the time. Part of that is like not necessarily politically related, but I don't know what to do. And he said something to the effect of, if it can be endured, endure it. And he said he had more to say than that, but he said, your goal, if you can push through it, then push. Don't give up. Because if you give up, then they win. Like, it should be incumbent on you. And I'm saying this from a place of privilege, right? But it is incumbent on all of us to push as much as we can until it is beyond our capacity to safely do it, right? Like, obviously, if you're in a situation where if you push, you are putting your life at risk, don't do that. Please don't do that. But until that occurs, it's incumbent on you to,
I want to
because
address. I want to address Erica B. There. They ask, we can rest after we push, maybe question mark. There's a lot of creators on this app, and they are not of my skin tone. They are melanated, beautiful people, and they say this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And you can ask Professor Z. I was just telling him the other day, self care is radical revolution. Take breaks when you need to. Do not over encumber yourself with learning or fighting. Take breaks, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. If you are out of spoons, if you are out of energy, if you haven't slept in 3 days, you're useless to everybody that you're fighting for. So make sure you're taking care of yourself, and this marathon will be a much more attainable goal.
yeah,
I
yeah.
Sorry to
I
interrupt
mean,
there, Devo. I wanted to.
earlier in the, yeah, just something real quick as an answer. By the way, somebody commented on my muffled microphone. Let me know if my gain has improved now. In any way, there was something in the comment section regarding as
Oh,
to where to go
turn your
in
gain
case you
back
do have
down.
the
Gain
too much.
back down. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Oh,
much.
There's
to
a little,
Little,
little
little
bit
too
of
high.
feedback.
Gotcha.
And some
How about this?
crackle.
Better?
You were peaking.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a little
Okay,
better.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, where to go when and if you have the means to actually leave from where you're at? And I think the two states that are currently, I would just call them safe harbor states, would be Michigan and Minnesota, as far as I understand. Minnesota particularly is far ahead as far as LGBTQ legislation is concerned, women's rights, the preservation, codifying women's rights.
Also,
So
Washington.
Minnesota, I think, would be one option, and I think Michigan is not far behind.
Yeah, well,
Those are the two
Michigan.
that I
So the good thing about Michigan, I don't know the makeup of Minnesota off the top of my head, but with Michigan,
Yes.
all branches are controlled by Democrats now, which that's the first time it's happened in like a generation or something like that. It's been quite a while. And then as Celtic mentioned, Washington and Oregon, excellent places. Washington, I mean, like I low key was thinking about moving there at one
Oregon,
point.
that all really depends on where you're at, because I want to remind everybody, Oregon was brought into this country as a whites only state. That is part of their state charter.
Shit.
So and that is one reason why you see Idaho wanting to take 2/3 of that state and create Idaho Extended. And that's actually in response to the Cascadia thing that we kind of unofficially call Washington, Oregon, and California, which is, the states on the left-hand side of the Rockies. But it all depends on where you go in Oregon. I would recommend Western Washington or Spokane, and then I would go south of Donner Pass, California.
Yeah, I mean, California is an interesting one, right? Because
It is.
anybody who doesn't live in California and isn't familiar with California, they hear California and they automatically, this happens on either side of the aisle, they hear California and automatically think, oh, wow, this is just like liberal, like utopia, right? Except here's a fun statistic. California has more Republicans than any other state in the United States. But the only reason that it is reliably always blue is because there's just so many more Democrats that live there. But the point is, California is heavily populated with Republicans. There's a shitload of Republicans that live there.
What's his face? The guy in I'm gonna try and avoid any triggering words. For Club Q, his granddad. That's all I'll say. I don't want anybody to feel bad. I just want to mention that as a reference point because he is from California and he has a lot of power there in California.
Yeah. I mean, the other one, McCarthy, Speaker of the House right now, he's California. A lot of the high power politicians, like Republicans, a lot of them are from California. It's a thing, right? I mean, hell, I think Elon Musk is moving back to California. He moved to Texas for like 5 minutes. He's moving back to California. Ben Shapiro lived in California for the majority of his career, except now he's in Florida. It's a thing, right?
Dude,
there's a lot of money.
I don't have enough bourbon in my office to handle that name.
Yeah, it's rough.
I'll share if you come to Washington.
But I mean,
hang on a second, TJ. Thank you so much for stopping in. I am going to DM you, and I'm gonna somehow convince you, tie you to me somehow that you'll show up again next time. That was great to have you.
Yes.
TJ, you're great.
I followed you on my main account. I'm actually on another friend's backup account because of bullshit. So I followed you on my main, Celtic Ginge. Yeah.
Thank you so much, TJ. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, TJ.
All right. Let's see. Actually, you know what? I want to touch base real quick with Blackbird Jills, inviting her into the room. Reason being, going back to what she posted earlier while she's hopefully considering the invitation, the 11 anti-abortion bills that are evidently on the docket in Kansas, which seems to be just a little bit of a problem. And not exactly sure where we're headed there, so I think we need some female voices.
Isn't Kansas the state that put abortion
Yes.
on the ballot for the people to individualistically decide, and it got shot down quicker than a bad, come online?
Yeah. So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Kansas, it was a ballot initiative and it was for a constitutional amendment. And now the wording of it is going to be, that'll be the crux of it. Because if the wording of it is abortion should be illegal and they vote that down, then it just remains in a neutral position after that. But if it's, I don't know how it was worded. Because a lot of the headlines, a lot of the headlines and the write-ups afterwards was like Kansas overwhelmingly votes to have abortion be a right in Kansas, right?
Yeah. Women showed the fuck up. You're right, Watch Bar. Women showed up on that one.
Yeah,
Hi, Blackbird.
Blackbirds, welcome to the show. What is going on in your home state?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Hi.
Awesome. No, I just briefly looked on Legiscan last night and just counted quickly 11 different bills. And a lot of them, they're just not outlawing abortion directly, obviously. It's coming from all sorts of different angles. And the one I found interesting last night was a bill that would basically revoke the license for medical providers by denying them insurance.
That is underhanded as
like
hell.
if someone said, hey, I accuse you of someone, then they would not be able to get insurance, and then their license would be revoked, and that goes for a provider or facility. So effectively, that one by itself would shut everything down, even though Kansas 60% across the board said, hey, this is what we want, even though we vote red. Like, so it's a lot. And then there's, a bunch of other ones in there, just everything, telemedicine, you name it.
Yeah. I think that whenever these conversations are had with people, when you're trying to just get
It's backward.
to get like people who aren't necessarily leftward to agree when it comes to abortion, because it's such a polarizing topic, right? There's a lot of routes that you can take, right? And I've developed like a ton of different ways. They're not in any way unique. It's just methods that I've used. But when you're talking to Republicans, it's very important to establish what type of Republican they are. If they are a old school Republican, small government Republican, all that bullshit, or they're a libertarian, which in theory they should be small government if they identify as a libertarian. Then you approach it from the small government position is keeping government out of medical decisions. Period. End of story. That is the small government position, because any other position, go ahead.
I want to volley off of you real quick, just while it's
Yeah.
pertinent. It's yes, you do need to absolutely find out what kind of Republican they are, but you made it sound a little nefarious. So I want to say it's a matter of getting to know that person and actually listening to them. It is so easy for the right to dehumanize, and it's very easy for us to be very dismissive of those on the right, because we have that feeling of how hard is it to do the bare fucking minimum. Like we automatically go to anger. So I just want to kindly reframe what you were
Yeah.
saying, and that is listen to the person you're debating with and see them. It's like Indrid always says. I love how he puts this in his lives. Argue the point, the argument. Don't argue the person. Listen to the person, and that's what TJ was telling us earlier as well. So I just want to do a quick little kind
Yeah.
of
No,
reframe.
that
So
And
absolutely
here,
true.
I think in the comment section, can we do better, please? I think really just, hit it on the nail. The big push is to defund all avenues for reproductive medical care. It's not just the defunding; it's the delicensing, it's the relicensing questions in various states, from what I have read, that make it just, let's just say, prohibitive to have any form of medical intervention. And with the misoprostol, I think I pronounced it right. Mifepristone, one of them. The 2-stage protocol that is currently in under review in Texas, I think it's in Amarillo, Texas, which they chose very purposely because it's about as deep red as deep red can be. So there is likely not a beneficial outcome coming from there. And then 50% of abortions in the nation are medical abortions. Those are suddenly going to go away. Now you tie back to what we just had in Texas, which was the proposal that if you have 10 kids, you essentially are exempt from income tax.
Yeah, I was seeing that like somebody was actually, a lot of creators here stitched that video, and they're like,
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah.
Mifepristone, exactly.
Yep.
yes, mifepristone. There's misoprostol.
Yeah,
and
that
there's
ruling is,
mifepristone.
everybody's waiting for that ruling. Interestingly enough, the bill that was proposed in Texas, and this is what really kind of irks me on this entire thing, the bill with the children in Texas that gives you some form of tax exemption depending on how many kids you have. And I think at 10 kids, essentially you turn into some half a football team.
It's based
You're
on the
getting
birth
like the
dearth.
maximum tax exemption.
Birth
Yeah.
dearth
That
is what it's
actually
based on.
follows suit. Well, do you know where it originated?
Yeah.
In Hungary.
It's
Before the
it's
birth dearth?
By one Mr. Orban, to be exact.
Orban. Yeah, Viktor Orban.
Yeah,
okay.
and
Now,
what is Orban doing? Orban is wrecking Hungary into
Yes,
essentially
he
a
is.
contemporary version of full-on fascism.
Yes.
This is a carbon copy, not carbon copy to the degree that it is identical, but carbon copy in the sense that it's similar outcomes, similar intention, just a larger number of kids. I think in Hungary
Yeah.
it's 4 kids. Here it's 10.
yeah. I mean that's
Yep.
that kind of tips the hand and shows the underlying motivations for restricting reproductive
Oh
health.
no. What about
There,
Brazil?
we lost her. There are a handful of different motivations there. A lot of people have brought up the control and fear aspect, which certainly, but there are others, right? So there is a racial component where white people are going to be a minority in the United States probably within the next 20, 30 years, something like that.
I think they said 2050.
Okay,
2050,
yeah.
I think is what the year that, or maybe 2050 or 2030. Brain fog and numbers. So
Yeah,
definitely use some Google on that.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, we are going to become a minority, and there's a myriad of reasons for that. But there is a racial
Okay, thank
component
you, Nurse Trish.
where it is 2050. Okay. So
Thank you, Trish.
there's maintaining that majority status. That there is a component there, but there's also this other component, and it ironically enough is also that it has racial ties to it, but it is not actually racial. So essentially, what it is, if you notice, one thing that frequently occurs whenever we talk about like the justice system, the criminal justice system in this country, that members of the BIPOC community typically always get harsher sentences and are more frequently convicted of crimes in the criminal justice system in the U.S. There are several reasons for that, but the ultimate outcome of that is that in most states, if they are convicted of a felony, they lose the right to vote. They lose representation, right?
And that is as big.
In a handful of other states, they lose the right to a firearm, which I do personally think is important. But nonetheless, the right to vote is far more important.
And that's why they're
So,
coming after women. That's what
bingo,
we got too
exactly,
fucking loud. We took up too much damn
exactly,
space, and that's why they're coming for us. Black women and indigenous women warned us of this 50 fucking years ago. They've been warning us.
exactly.
And the fact of the matter is, between Gen Z and women in general, and yes, I realize that in Georgia and several other states, white women voted against our own
Yeah,
best interests. But I want to say, on the whole, for those of us on the left, those of us that spoke up, spoke fucking loud. We used
yeah,
Well,
megaphones.
we seriously need a black female creator on those lives to more
Yes.
authentically speak to that, because I obviously the translucentness in me, as white as can be. I mean, I understand the statistics. I understand the narrative accounts that I've been told numerous times from various individuals across my lifespan who are in the BIPOC
Goddess
community.
Mia, yes.
But
Go to Goddess
Goddess
Mia.
Mia would be fantastic.
Yes.
We are acquainted at this point, but unfortunately she's not here. But at any regards, there
Oh
is
shit,
no way
Oh,
Brit's in
and
the
you know
possible.
what,
chat.
Brett? We've got
What's
Brett.
up, Brit?
Sorry. I love
Who,
Brett.
where?
How you doing, babes?
Ooh, must come in. Invited. Boom.
Yes,
In any
please.
regard, it's impossible to authentically relate to what the BIPOC community experiences. So I'm at a complete loss to say anything of value that drives it forward other than teach me, take me with you, I will support you.
I
Yeah,
will say this. I'm going to give a plug and say this. I may sound like amazing, but I got these thoughts, and I am here boosting the voices of people like Empress Onyx. She's on here, Empress Onyx. Go to Portia Noir, go to White Woman Whisperer, go to Royal Star, and I think right now he's on Words with Pam, because he got his 12th account mass falsely reported. So if you, well, once I can public my account again, I will do my best to really boost those women as well as Royal Star for avenues to hit an anti-racial journey as well as intersectionality, because those creators are amazing, and those are the people's voices that I am speaking on when I speak to intersectionality. Those are the people that I am merely regurgitating. They are the wonderful thinkers that educated me. I want to give
So
them full credit.
let's take about
Hi,
15
Brett.
seconds to have a hard-on fangirl moment. Brett's in the house.
Hello, everybody.
what's up, Brit?
Do you know I've had a really depressing evening?
Oh no.
I've had a fire hose of fascist videos sent to me by very well-meaning people, and I've commented on a few, and then an English, very, very well-known creator, I found out he had several videos that were questionable, and I said to my wife, I'm a little bit depressed,
Josh.
and then I was literally about to close TikTok, and then I went, wait, Nemo, Ginge, and Zeitgeist all in one live? I literally just have to go and watch for a minute and say something. As soon as you said about black creators, Zeitgeist, I'm like, oh, yes, more of that, please. And I'm like, no, don't see me. I want to go bed.
Too
Well,
bad.
if you want to pick me up, I made a video. Let's see, it was last night. It was about Andrew Tate. It's very short. It will make you smile. It's a short, sweet. There's no commentary. It's literally just a picture. It'll make you smile. It'll make you smile. It's
I
a
will
nice
check
little
that
cherry.
out. I've just literally said to my wife, I don't know about anybody else, but I just feel like right now that, and Prof, I know you're going to feel this, the wave of legislation heading in the wrong direction in this country is, and Nemo, you know, I am a massive fan of Second World War history, and the fall of the former ruling party in Germany in the 20s. I've got a horrible bloody feeling that we're repeating history.
We are.
You're right.
It is
We are.
genuinely disconcerting the number of different states carrying out legislative action that if you'd have asked me in 2013 when I first moved to this country, would that even be a possibility? I would have said, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And now we are living it literally every day. And I don't mean to be depressing, but I might need to take a day or two because
Have you watched my
Take it.
content? What's not depressing?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's okay to take a day or two, honestly. Like I
Like
saw the thing. Good.
I know you're just joining, but as I was just preaching, hold on, let me get on my soapbox. Self-care is radical revolution.
yeah,
Take care of yourself. And I know I've told you that since the new year.
yeah,
And, you know, I'm going to reiterate it again. Self-care
yeah.
is radical revolution. Take care
I
of you.
appreciate you
And
guys,
you know I'm here.
and I have said to my wife, I think I am going to try and carve out a little bit of time to get more involved with the live side of this app. It's just right now, I just like to sort of rant at my phone about everybody needs to wake up, and I'm like, okay, the same people are waking up every time, and I just feel like there's a crowd of human beings walking into the abyss.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, as we talked earlier before you arrived, it is just longitudinal exposure to what we are trying to do, right? And it was actually today was the first time that I had commentary on the video that I posted that we actually need to refocus from the broader context. Of course, stay aware of it, but need to get to work locally. And it was quite interesting to read through the responses there, where several comments actually came about saying, hey, you know, watching particular creators, I started looking at what's going on in my locality. And there seems to be a little bit one by one, just a tiny bit of a shift of awareness and willingness to actually step up and say, okay, I'm going to have to at least inform myself. It's an uphill battle, but the other side fought that battle for 40 years. So they have a head start. So we're just going to have to work better, faster, quicker, more determined, what have you, because I'm much with you on this. If we fall off that cliff, I'm going to have to edit Kelt out already anyway for YouTube. If we fall off the cliff, we are royally fucked. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And in order to not get there, we got to step up, because if we don't turn this, I don't see a lot of good things, except a lot of good things in some states.
Yeah.
Washington, I guess Michigan, Minnesota, and probably a couple of others. But broadly spoken, nothing good's going to come. So, yeah. And they have a 50-year head start. Thanks for checking my math here. This is obviously not my strong suit.
So, did anybody see my earlier videos in regards to my surprise about young Josh?
Yes,
Do
I
tell.
did. I commented.
Yeah, so there's a guy from England, 4 million followers, seemed to me, in the few videos I'd seen of him, to be a lovely chap. He's an Englishman that talks about cultural differences between England and America and his fascination with America. And obviously, as an Englishman living in this country, I was like, oh, okay, his delivery is not my take. It's sort of very loud and shouty. And I'm like,
It
okay,
is.
I can only do so
It's
much
very
of it.
shouty.
But the funniest thing about it was that I first saw one of his videos when somebody suggested to me fries in a milkshake was a good thing. I questioned somebody's sanity.
Wendy's fries and a milkshake.
Yeah,
Wendy's
and
specifically in the Frosty.
somebody
Just for
pointed me in
clarification.
his direction, and I thought his delivery was hilarious. I saw a couple of other of his
Yep,
videos because of
memorable.
the For You page. And then today, I come home and somebody shared a video with me saying, take a look at this. And it was basically him saying, there was a drag act that had said a gag about, you know, any
I wouldn't
biblical
tell the joke,
character. Yeah, any
just in
biblical
case.
character that can take being nailed by men for 3 days and still come back, I'm all for it. I thought it was funny. It was innocent.
It's a great joke.
He took offense to it. And I thought, well, that's a bit left field for his kind of content. So I did a little bit of okay, let's go back on the page for a couple of months and call me a conspiracy theorist. it just feels like his content was all fun till the turn of the year. Then it was a cowboy hat, a cross. I love country music. I'm going to
Yeah,
defend
yeah.
Christians.
I mean, he's always been Christian. He was one of the first I followed on this app because like some of my first queries were Irish and Scottish creators. And that's where I found Josh and I adored him. And then Lizzie passed and he got pissed at those of us who come from colonized descendancy that we were happy that we don't support the monarchy and yada yada. So he's been on a very short leash, as it were, for me. And then I saw his video yesterday getting so just butthurt
So
about
I've got a
that
question for everybody.
fantastic joke.
So I've got a question for everybody to think about because I am going to go to bed in a minute because I
What?
really don't do lives.
Too late. You're caught.
I'm curious as to what percentage of the far right in America are genuinely, look, we should be a Christian country, women should be subservient, gays shouldn't exist. What percentage are fully invested and what percentage are performative far right in order to have financial gain? I'm thinking the Tucker Carlsons, the Sean Hannity's, the Joshies of this world, because I don't think he's that way. I think it's performative. What percentage of this problem, this thing that scares me to death right now, is fully invested, fully believing, and what is purely financially performative?
So I think that so if you look, a good metric is going to be, I guess, Trump's core base. So his core base has been established based on like polling and how there was just this steadfast group that no matter what he did, they would always support him. That I think that it was established at around 30% of the country, and then or not 30% of the country. I don't fucking know. 30% of the Republican Party, maybe. But so you have that 30%, right? I don't think all of them are like Handmaid's Tale level. They're just, they're red hats, right?
Yeah.
Point of clarification on Handmaid's Tale, and I know you've seen my videos on this. Handmaid's Tale is the literal story of Indigenous and Black women in this country. We only started to care because we put white skin on it. So,
Yep.
Point of clarification, I'm done.
So I think that, they're not all there. I would say of that 30%, probably, I would say a third of that is probably thinking that, because at that point you've got people who actually do this, like make content for financial gain. That's going to inherently be a small portion because there's not that many people doing it. Just raw numbers, right? So those people who are performative, that's probably 1%, right? But then you have all the people that watch them, their audiences, which is going to be that other 9%. So I would say it's 10% of the. No, it's a third of the 30%. Whatever that is, I need to do the numbers.
What was the number of people present at 1/6? And then extrapolate that to the population.
Actually,
I think that would be a fair
that's
assessment.
excellent. January 6th.
So, Prof, I've got one more
I'm not
question,
the
and
math
I
person.
promise I'm.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer your question actually.
Oh, go for it.
Just really quick. I think we are all woefully underestimating the determination of that crowd. And the only reason why I'm going there is because I'm generally a believer in stats, in particularly large scale stats. When you poll hundreds of thousands of people, you get a pretty decent result that has some reliability. And with Trump, they were colossally wrong, not just once, but twice. And that just provides a lot of food for thoughts to me, in a sense that I think there are a lot more committed people in there that may at first glance appear performative or haphazard, but when asked to vote, will speak in favor of Trump and against their fellow American. And that's only the Trump people. Trump is a stage clown, if you will, performative, boisterous, brilliant in outrage testing, sentiment testing, and then you layer a DeSantis on top of it, and it gets really dangerous. So that's just my perspective on this.
Go on, Kel.
So before there was Trump, there was a man in Mississippi named George Wallace. If you don't know who George Wallace is, go ahead and go research him. After that, I want to show you a very, I can't call it coincidence. A lot of my mutuals down here already know I keep preaching this. Go watch Giuliani, What Happened to America's Mayor. It's on Hulu. It's on, network television. Giuliani, What Happened to America's Mayor. And you are going to feel some serious deja vu, because down to there was an incident in order to overtake a black mayor in New York City. Giuliani enlisted off-duty cops and fire people and EMTs to storm the city hall. When you watch this, I give you that to pique your interest, to whet your appetite. But go watch it, and you're going to see how we're not that far removed from Goebbels' propaganda machine and the different fascist tactics that we ourselves created.
Don't do this to me, because I'm about to get on my soapbox. But so, in order to get myself off the soapbox before I step on it, Britt, what was the second question?
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. I want to ask you a question. I need to go to bed with
Paul.
Positive vibes. Nemo?
Yep.
I'm going to use the somewhat offensive colloquial term. You're a Yank. Celt? Originally European, but you're a Yank. Yeah?
Yeah.
Prof, I've got to ask, that accent is not Michigan.
Bring it.
That accent's not Michigan. Where are you from? Your family heritage. Where are you from?
Oh, come on, you're British. You should at least somewhat identify that.
I really, really want to tread carefully on this, but I'm going to say Germany.
No.
No?
I mean, it's either Germany or Austria. I can't pin the accent.
Go on, Prof.
It's Austria.
Okay, so Austro-Prussian.
I asked him if it was Swiss German or Austrian. That was my guess. Swiss German.
Good point.
Okay, so Austro-Prussian, same difference for me. Do you know the one positive? The one positive I'm going to take away from tonight? I've spent the last 5-10 minutes of my evening on TikTok with two lefty Yanks and a Prussian lefty.
That sounds so naughty.
And a Brit lefty. And I'm like, do you know something? If all four of us are still around in a few years, then we that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Look, I think we're going through a second fascist era. Everything goes in 80, 90-year cycles. I think we're going through that cycle again. Britain's going through it. Italy's going through it. Germany may go through it, God forbid. America's definitely going through it. My country's going through it. But hopefully we can get past this without anybody getting a bit carried away militarily. That's the only thing I'm holding on to.
That raises
there is some
there,
pretty
Rich.
solid. No, there's some pretty solid stuff out of Canada actually, and I had it loaded, but I need to re-record it. It's one of the future segments. In this segment, essentially, I'm going to dig out some data and whatnot out of Canada, where a couple of professors, political scientists, are pretty elaborate on the idea that by 2030, at the latest, the U.S. is going to be fascist. Take it with a grain of salt or whichever. I'm going to make more sense out of this before I publish it. But yeah, this is coming from the peaceful A guys, right? I mean, they say we're heading this direction. I would pay attention.
I've been. I don't know if you've seen Peter Jeanen. He's a globalization professor, lecturer who's been doing an awful lot of talks lately on the end of globalization, and I've often said to people at work who listen to me and get bored that I think 2024 in the US is going to be pretty sort of pivotal, in as much as it'll either be the end of globalization and we'll go to a more of a regional model. China's screwed, Russia's screwed, NAFTA 2.0. Look, I don't like Donny, but there's elements of NAFTA 2.0 I've looked at where actually this sort of makes sense. Canada, America, Mexico, regional trade. This could make sense. NAFTA 2.0. So 2024 for me may be sort of the end of globalization and more regional trade. Brexit will go back. Britain will go back to Europe with its tail between its legs, kiss goodbye to the pound and become part of the euro again. That could happen. And then you'll have 3 or 4 regional blocks, and then there would be somewhat regionalized peace. Alternatively, this is a horrible thought, 2024, Ronnie or Donny get in, and then it's all bets are off. I have no idea what happens. That's all I can see.
Yeah.
What's up, Enlighten?
100% agreed.
Ooh.
Oh,
Look who's here.
good Lord, it's the Masked Avenger.
Hold on a second.
Well,
Or is it Midnight Cult? Or is it Muscles and Nursing? Who all have you been accused of being at this point now, Enlightened?
Hang on 1 second.
oh my God, is he getting accused of being other people?
He
There's-
is.
We
He is.
know one
no
thing.
way.
Since we're here at the same time, he's not Nemo.
That
That's
is
true,
true.
and he's not me.
I was about to say, there's no way in hell that he could be Muscles, because Muscles is way too energetic, and like Enlighten's really chill and calm, and Muscles is just not. Oh boy, is just
I don't know.
going.
I don't know. It
There we
could
go.
happen.
All right.
Well, anyway, guys, it's midnight. I'm Enlightened, dude. After your video contribution last week, please don't take this as I'm going because you're here. I'm going to check out because I need to spend some time with my puppy and
Before
my wife.
you go, as
Just
an
making me
Irish
sad,
descended
man.
Yank,
Yeah.
fuck you and slancha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have so much editing to do. I'm just gonna declare this not safe for kids. Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Brett,
there you
dude.
go.
See you guys
Thank you so much
later.
for coming on.
Bye bye.
Till next
Later.
time.
All right. Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Oh, Brett's back. All right.
Oh,
Never
no.
mind.
I tried to pout him to stay. I tried to use my epic pout to get Brett to stay. I really did.
Nah,
It
yeah.
was good. I mean, it got me. It got me. Yeah.
All right. Originally, the game plan that I had in mind was to cut out by about 15, 20 minutes from now. And the game plan sort of that I had in mind was that we actually turn the last 15, 20 minutes over to the audience and just make this sort of an audience round. What questions do you have? What do you actually want us to reflect upon? Because once we get lost in talking to one another, the chat moves so fast that I think we don't do you guys justice to recognize that you're here and give you the voice that you deserve to have. So if you want to throw something out that you want us to quickly riff on, or just tell us that we're full of shit, then do that too. I'm totally okay with that. And yeah, otherwise we'll just continue riffing on with what we have.
Yeah, I get told I'm full of shit very frequently.
Oh yeah, watch my comment section.
Same.
Also, again, shout out to the mods. Without you guys, we would have probably been canned a long time ago. So the moderation team, you guys just rock. Thank you so much. Unity and focus, Citizens United, legitimate court separation of church and state. Yeah, why not throw everything at us? So Citizens United, I think, is obviously not going to happen without the Supreme Court getting involved. 1, 2, I don't see the politicians that we currently have in place voting against their own interest. That's just simply where we are. Separation of church and state, I think we are so far down that path that this is simply not going to happen again without having new blood in the ranks, because just look back to 40, 50 years ago with Jerry Falwell and his involvement. This is so intertwined. Who was the guy? Pat Robertson, the dude that I don't even know why he's still alive, who proclaims that
Pure
the U.S. was
spite.
founded on Christian principles. I mean, besides the factual bullshit, just to stand up and say that with the audience that he has at his fingertips is dangerous enough. So I don't see this anytime soon being decoupled. And whatever the third question was after that.
Yeah. My take on that.
Definitely pack the court. Biden
Yeah.
needs to
So
pack that fucking court. Sorry.
my
Sorry.
take
I
on
love the
that
F word.
is it's going to be as far as like packing the court. Here's the thing. If we expand the Supreme Court, which I'm amenable to, because to be clear, the reason that it's 9 is because when that number was set, there were 9 circuits in the United States. There are now 13. So in theory, it makes sense for the number of justices to keep up with the number of judicial circuits in the United States, meaning that it would be 13. Now, if that were to occur, that there would be a gigantic political blowback that we potentially would not recover from. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, it's unfortunate. I understand as a leftist, you want to get the shit done. That's how you get it done. But unfortunately, you have to look at the downstream effects. You have to play that political game out and see the repercussions of doing that. So packing the court that way, probably not a great idea. Now, the other way to do it is, and I've become like a fucking evangelical. I'm sorry, become an evangelical for this, which is there's a bill in Congress right now, and it was introduced by Ro Khanna of California, and it is a Supreme Court term limit bill. Okay, for anybody that wants to look it up, it is HR 5140. Okay. Supreme Court Term Limits and Regular Appointments Act of 2021. It was introduced.
What was the number?
HR 5140.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's that was introduced by Ro Khanna. Basically, the way that it works is so it gives every Supreme Court justice one 18-year term. They get to sit on the court for 18 years. That is long enough that things don't shift wildly. There's a long, stable period, but it is not. It does not span generations, right? And that's what we've been experiencing with like Clarence Thomas and Alito, and Ginsburg for that matter. So there's this nice happy middle. Now, the way that this bill is structured, there's a lot of really cool things in there to basically account for different scenarios. But the way it would work is if it were to pass, Clarence Thomas, who I believe he is the most senior judge on the court right now, he would be forced to retire or forced to give up his seat. He wouldn't have to retire from being a judge.
Should be anyway.
And so
with his wife.
Yeah, he would be forced to step off the court, and then it would stagger in. What would ultimately happen as this bill plays out is that a president would get one Supreme Court justice per term. One. So if they win 2 terms, they get 2 justices. And that's how it would work. Nice and stable. If one dies randomly, then they are replaced by an existing judge that was moved off the court. There's a lot of provisions in there for that. That, in my opinion, would do so much to unfuck the rat-fucked court.
I have a question. Are there any provisions for equalizing the court? Because the court should be balanced. It should be, well, first and foremost, we need to oust the ones that lied in their interviews, basically. But to me, there should never be a majority of right wing or left wing. And then on top of that, the Supreme Court is one of the few branches of our government that has no oversight. Is there any? Because if I Google this, I'm going to have to sift through a lot of information and take my attention away from this.
So
are there
I don't think
are there any provisions for oversight committees? Because these are the people who solely interpret our Constitution, and there's no fucking oversight, and there's no reason that it should be that way.
There isn't any oversight provisions in this bill. There is, I think, there's another bill kicking around to have an ethics standard of some type for the court. Highly that has to happen.
It has to.
But yeah, I think that one act, if you guys really want to throw your weight behind something and really focus on something, pushing that one act would do a whole lot, because a lot of shit is about to be decided by, or will be decided in the coming years by a court that is
Just in this year
heavily
on their
stacked
docket.
towards conservatives. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Roe is it's an example. It's just one example. Eventually, Obergefell will be on the docket. I guarantee you, in the next 2 years, Obergefell will come on the docket.
And Loving.
Yeah, and Loving. So those are coming.
Which is
I
gay
was
marriage
one-
and interracial
I always
marriage.
wondered. I always wondered why they didn't have Democrat presidents have to appoint a Republican justice, and Republicans would have to appoint a Democrat.
I like that idea.
Because you would end up with moderates.
I mean, so ultimately, what happens is it's a matter of who determines what is what, right? Like, because judges typically in the way that they present to the public is neutral, right? Even though we obviously know there are liberal justices and conservative ones, but who determines which ones are conservative and which one are liberals? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Another interesting thing with the separation of church and state, there's a guy that I follow on here on TikTok named Andrew Seidel. He wrote a book called The Founding Myth that is about the separation. And he has a grassroots organization that works towards passing bills and local stuff, trying to keep church and state separate.
Yep.
Interesting person to follow on here, and if anybody wants more of like the local thing.
I'll also say, just to add on to that. Yeah.
Would you send me there, please?
Yeah, for me as well,
Send me
please.
their
I'm
app.
going to have to connect with him.
Just to add on to groups for the separation of church and state part, the Satanic Temple, I know it sounds like I'm kidding. I'm not. The Satanic Temple is essentially, they are the ACLU effectively for religious stuff specifically.
They are not the Church of Satan.
They are not the Church of Satan. They do not worship Satan. They do not do that. The Church of Satan, they do. The Satanic Temple does not. They are pretty much all atheists.
They are the antithesis to everything Christianity is against.
Exactly.
Basically. Everything.
Anytime
the
that
lack of freedom, the lack of bodily autonomy, the Satanic Temple.
Anytime that you've seen anytime you've seen like a news story where like right next to the 10 Commandments there was a statue of Baphomet, that was the Satanic Temple. That's them doing that. And they are good at that because that's a great way to trigger people, to trigger the religious people, religious zealots. And they are good at like checking the Christo-fascists. So you can donate you can join them, you can, and they're technically a religion. You can join them, you can donate to them, all that stuff.
Religion. They are federally recognized as a.
They have chapters all over the damn place. I guarantee, no matter where you are, except for like crazy bumblefuck Utah, there's probably a chapter.
Judy, tax the churches. IRS form 13909. If you find a church is engaged in the political process, discourse, what have you, you can file IRS 13909, essentially report them and have them reviewed. Now, mileage may vary because the IRS is notoriously understaffed, but in the past, it has proven to be effective, and it has actually taken some churches to the cleaners, so to speak, because of their involvement in politics. And if I may just suggest, let's start with, what's his face? The guy with the multiple chats.
Oh, you're talking about the pastor? It's Greg Locke.
Greg Locke,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
he's up in Tennessee.
among
he is north of me, sir. Just right north of me a little bit. Like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, but
Josh Brandon has been taking him on square, as well as Ken Peters, that sadly came from Washington State.
Yeah.
So,
as far as for hate crimes, yes.
Unfortunately, something that I learned while I think I was watching something on TikTok. It was coming from I think somebody who ran like a charity or maybe did like accounting for charities or 501c3 organizations that were not churches. And they said that the tax code, unfortunately, is so complex and so the 501c3, portion is so complex that, the idea behind taxing a church, to do that, to implement taxing churches, which in theory I fully support, it would end up hurting so many nonprofits that are simply not churches. And there's not an easy way to do it, sadly.
I want to point out that that's why so many Republicans were so opposed to Biden and the Biden administration wanting to bring in all those new IRS agents.
Yep. Because, the IRS agents were only going to go after rich people and 501c3s that are fucking around.
Mm-hmm. If you want a new hobby, if you want to enact change positively in your community immediately, start going to churches and just, for shits and giggles, and see if they're preaching politics from the pulpit and go report
But I don't want to go up in flames.
Yeah,
I will definitely go up in flames or be stoned in the street. But
if you guys, if anybody watching this can stomach it, go to a church, take your phone with you. If they start talking about politics, bust out your phone, start recording, document it.
On the web, yeah, good idea. Let's 7 after. Let's throw one more question out of the audience. Throw it at us, and then we'll get out of here before we wear out our welcome, and then we'll do it again. I don't know. Next Friday sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds good for me.
Cool.
And I'll be off my live ban on my main.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes. I'm going to download those 2 parts probably today, since I have to go out and come back in. And
I'm sorry for my foul
YouTube.
Sorry.
Also, I just want to reiterate today's video. If you do have a politician locally, or if you're interested in running for something locally, whether that's school board, library, what have you, and you want to talk about what it is you're doing, just shoot me a DM and or just an email, and I'm more than happy to, after some vetting, of course, put the spotlight on you. And I think we're just going to start with Jess. Put a podcast together, put it out on YouTube, and just really start promoting those who are hopefully going to be in the position to change the country and or be of support to those who are going to change the country. Either way, it's going to be a team game, team effort. So would it be better to find churches that we can see taxation without representation? Not sure I'm not sure what the basis for a fine would be. I mean, a fine would have to have some form of legal enforcement, right?
Yeah.
So I'd much rather have that tax status reviewed. And
Shania Twain 666. Yes, churches aren't people, so it's a little different when you're dealing with entities versus the individual.
Yeah. So just I would much rather see them pay the full load on tax. I mean, they already, in all fairness, they do pay some taxes in a sense that they pay payroll taxes and whatnot, but that's just not enough. You need to get some sleep. Yeah, I think we all do. Autumn, thank you so much. All right, let's cut this for tonight, shall we?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, Enlightened, next time sooner. Yeah. I know you had power outages and whatnot, so thanks for even making it.
Sitting here in the dark in my basement, as far away from, because there's no like white noise in our house right now, so you can hear every voice throughout the house.
With us? You're here with us.
Well, everybody's asleep now, and it's just pitch black in the house, so why not?
That's the best life, sit in the darkness. I mean, that sort of fits your disposition anyway. Then, Nemo, dude, thanks so much for coming on. We had TJ tonight. We had Britt and Kelt. You're a rock star. And as well, of course, the entire
Morgan
mod team.
And Watch Bar and all our mods down there. You're fucking rock stars. I tried to get in there, but this was so engaging. I just tried to make sure that voices were heard from the chat, and that was the best I could do. But thank you to the mods. You guys are amazing.
Pro comments. We had Stella just blip in last time. She couldn't make the live. I did send her a message tonight. She couldn't make it, but I'm looking forward to having her in one of the future lives. So at some point, for sure, we'll get her in here.
If you want to reach out to me, I'm Celtic Ginge on this app. This isn't my normal account. I am Celtic Ginge. Some of you I've followed on my actual account because I'm over here semi-modding on my tablet, but I will get back on my main next week.
Yeah, this is my
I'm gonna
backup.
follow this guy.
If you open up like my profile on this profile, Nemo underscore says, it makes it abundantly clear this is my backup. So yeah.
And everybody should have followed Enlightened by now already anyway. I mean, that goes without saying.
I would hope so, yeah.
All right, folks, keep engaging. Stay on top of things. I'll post an announcement for the next live here in the next
and take breaks,
40
damn it.
hours.
Take self-care.
Guys,
see y'all later.
Much appreciation. Hugs. Love
Good night.
You guys.
Thanks for having me.
Next Friday. Bye. Till then. Bye.